On India Decides tonight, the focus has so far only been on N. Srinivasan. But is the web of corruption and conflict of interest in the Indian Cricket Board much wider? That's our big focus tonight, and there is no better example of that than the manner in which the BCCI changed its own rules to allow N. Srinivasan to buy the Chennai Super Kings in 2008, even though he was treasurer of the BCCI. Many believe that that was the root of this entire crisis today. And who gave him the go-ahead? Everyone who are today his biggest critics of the mess in the board. From Lalit Modi, who was the then IPL chief, Shashank Manohar, who was Sharad Pawar's lawyer and also a board official, and Sharad Pawar himself, who today might criticize what's going on in the board. But at that time, as president, he signed the letter that gave Mr. Srinivasan the go-ahead to buy the team.
I was in this position, and in that period this type of nonsense never happened.
Sharad Pawar claiming he would have never allowed this crisis in the Indian Cricket Board. But it was Pawar as president who gave Srinivasan permission to be a member of the board and own an IPL team. When the IPL was being formed in 2008, Srinivasan wanted to bid for the Chennai team, but BCCI rules did not allow its members to have commercial interests in the BCCI. So, as treasurer, N. Srinivasan was not eligible. But in this letter sent to Srinivasan in January 2008, Pawar says, "I have examined the relevant regulations of the BCCI and have consulted several members, and it is our considered opinion that the participation of India Cements will not mean you personally have any direct or indirect commercial interest. I therefore find no impediment in India Cements participating in the bidding process." Giving Pawar legal inputs was his lawyer and then BCCI Vice President Shashank Manohar, another person who has criticized Srinivasan. Also giving his assent was Srinivasan's biggest critic, Lalit Modi.
You are saying that decision itself was wrong actually, that Mr. Srinivasan should not have actually got a franchisee because of the conflict of interest. Are you saying that?
I am saying that only, that yes, when you're holding some position, you should not be indulging in that. But if you are making that way and you are supporting that his decision to buy that team, then now to make that issue is not correct.
What's ironic is all those who are now asking for N. Srinivasan to step down have in the past tweaked laws to favour one man. And the doublespeak doesn't end there, with Sharad Pawar still saying the board must be careful when it comes to conflict of interest.
In 2008 we have consulted legal opinion also, and we got a considerable view there is no conflict. So in that situation, when we discussed in office bearers meeting also, it was clear. But henceforth we have to be very careful about these type of decisions.
With Ketki Angre, Tejas Mehta for NDTV.
So who really has the conflict of interest here? Are those who are criticizing N. Srinivasan themselves to be held accountable? Joining me tonight to debate this, I'm joined by Ajay Shirke. He's the treasurer of the BCCI. He joins me from Pune. Also Kirti Azad, someone who's been a very vocal critic of corruption within the cricket board. I'm also joined by Mr. Ranjit Kumar, senior advocate for the BCCI. Majid Memon, who's with the NCP and also a leading criminal lawyer. Kishore Bhimani, commentator and again someone who's been very clear about his stand on all of this. Atul Vasan, former cricketer, thanks so much for joining us. And Sharda Ugra, who's one of the senior editors at ESPN and Cricinfo. Now, also Mr. Shirke, as I said, joins us. Majid Memon, can I ask you that this letter very clearly shows you that on one hand you have Sharad Pawar coming out and saying that everything that happened in this current tenure would not have happened if he was BCCI president and asking for a CBI inquiry. But here is proof that he was the one who allowed for N. Srinivasan's conflict of interest. He is the one who changed the rules that allowed him this team.
You see, at that time, it was not a single person's decision. It was thought by the entire group which was working there on the BCCI.
Yes, but it was under Mr. Pawar's watch. The letter clearly has his name there right on top in the letterhead.
No, please, let me answer that, what you have asked me. Now, it was thought that this particular, enabling provision it was not even in the wildest imagination of anybody that
Yes.
it could be abused to such an extent, which is now manifesting today.
How could
So
how
that's
could
in
that is that an
2013
argument?
we
Is
are
that
finding-
is that an acceptable argument at all, Sharada Ugra?
No,
that
it
you
was
can
the
say that
moment
you can't imagine what would happen.
The moment it came up, it was just a very obvious thing. You know, you said that how can you have someone in the board who is supposed to govern over the IPL and everything that's happening? How can you have someone in the board actually own a team and have an financial and commercial interest in this enterprise that you have put up, you have set up in the IPL? So the moment it came up, everybody sort of raised objections to it, and the fact that the constitution was retrofitted
Yes.
to make this suit Mr. Srinivasan, we all pointed it out. This has just come to sort of horrifying
That's
life.
right.